tonight. A judge rules a Saskatoon man is not criminally responsible for the stabbing death of his partner. More communities are evacuated as northern wildfires burn out of control. And an important archaeological site near Prince Albert falls victim to trespassers.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Thursday, July 3rd, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you for joining us. A Saskatoon man who fatally stabbed his partner 3 years ago is not criminally responsible for what happened. Thomas Hamp was charged with second-degree murder in the death of Emily Sanche, and on Thursday, a judge ruled that Hamp had a mental disorder that left him incapable of knowing that what he was doing was wrong. Dan Zakreski has our top story.
It was never about whether Thomas Hamp killed Emily Sanche. Hamp said that he did. That admission created a particular challenge for the prosecutor at his murder trial.
It was all about what was in the head of the accused.
Hamp was charged with second-degree murder, but this did not unfold like a conventional murder trial.
Typically, the main focus in a murder trial is are there any legal defenses? Is this person the person who did the killing? Those are often the key things we're looking into. Here, that was admitted from day one that he was the person who killed the victim.
In this 22-page ruling, Justice Grant Curry accepts the findings of a forensic psychiatrist who assessed Thomas Hamp. The psychiatrist said that Hamp was in a delusional state, that he believed shady characters were going to kill him and then kidnap and torture Emily Sanche, and that by killing Sanche, he saved her from that fate. The psychiatrist relied heavily on detailed notes kept by Sanche, who was working on a master's degree in counseling and who charted Hamp's trips to the emergency room to get help. Hamp's lawyer says these notes changed the course of Hamp's life.
When you look at what she wrote and the details and the careful nature and the intelligence, she's analytically thinking, obviously focused singularly on his well-being.
The ruling today ends Thomas Hamp's journey through the criminal justice system. Next, his case goes to the Saskatchewan Review Board. Now, its members will decide if, when, and under what conditions he could be released back into the community. Dan Zakreski, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Saskatoon police have released a sketch of a man who was found dead in the South Saskatchewan River. The man has a dark complexion, short curly black hair and brown eyes. He's 5'9" and weighs about 140 pounds. It's believed he was between the ages of 20 and 25. His body was found floating in the river along the east bank south of the University Bridge 2 weeks ago. Police don't believe he was the victim of foul play and have been unable to identify him. Anyone with information is asked to contact Saskatoon police. The province has issued a drug alert for a new substance circulating in Saskatoon. It's being sold as fentanyl, but is actually a mixture of substances, including a veterinary tranquilizer and benzodiazepines. Prairie Harm Reduction in Saskatoon has issued this advisory as a result. It says the substance appears as purple chunks, and there's a high risk of an overdose if it's ingested. PHR's executive director says a highly toxic cocktail of drugs, like the one being reported in this substance, can be especially deadly.
With xylazine and benzos, naloxone won't work. And so it requires, a different type of care, where you can reverse the fentanyl side of things and get breathing returned, but they're not going to be as alert. Possibly the overdose symptoms from the other drugs are still there.
Demong is urging people to test their drugs before using. She also says it's important to carry naloxone and never use drugs alone. Demong says it's not uncommon for combinations of drugs to be found in substances, especially as festival season kicks into high gear. The northern village of Beauval is now being evacuated because of a nearby wildfire, and it's not the only community facing danger from fires this week. Jeremy Warren has the latest.
Wildfires in northwest Saskatchewan are forcing hundreds of people from their homes and threatening road access to remote communities.
It was close enough for us to be concerned, and are seeing the experience in other communities. We thought it was better to do it sooner than later, and don't wait till the fire's at our doorstep, that at least we have our citizens on the move and registered, because it seems like it could cause a fiasco if you do it last minute.
The fires in the west are relatively new and growing fast due to dry, windy conditions. The English River First Nations Lac La Plonge Reserve was evacuated earlier this week, as were the Lac La Plonge and Beaver Creek subdivisions.
It's actually a number of fires. It's not one big fire. It's just the activity on the west side significantly increased over the weekend. Due to those fires, then we came the drying trend, and we started to see those fires get up, and with the breezes that came with them, some of those fires have grown. So nowhere near the size and scope of the fires we've seen so far, but obviously enough to be a concern to those local communities.
The Meadow Lake Tribal Council is helping evacuees from the English River First Nation, while the Public Safety Agency is coordinating temporary shelter for Beauval evacuees in Saskatoon. Fire crews from across the province are heading to the area to help out.
It's the dry season. Our water levels are really low. Our mushkegs and our rivers are all at the all-time low. It's almost drought situation out there. And the forecast doesn't see rain. There are limited access to resources because they're all spread so thin with water bombers and fire startups on a daily basis.
One of the fires threatening the reserve is just 6 kilometers away, and without any help from the weather, officials now expect several fires to merge into one large blaze. Jeremy Warren, CBC News, Saskatoon.
A nonprofit near Meadow Lake is reeling from a recent fire that destroyed its ski chalet, and the race is now on for the organization to get money for a new one in time for the Saskatchewan Winter Games. The St. Cyr Trails Club is set to host the Games' Nordic skiing event in February next year. Its chalet was destroyed by a fire back in May that was not related to the wildfires. The club had raised money through grants and donations for a new chalet roof in preparation for the Games. Now that roof is one of the only things that remains after the blaze.
Obviously, the chalet would be an important part of being able to host the event out at the trails. And so, a huge loss in that respect. But also, because those are coming up quickly, that's also a lot of pressure on our club to try to raise some funds and to come up with options so that we still can host the event there, because that is our goal, that's our dream.
Lalonde says the club is volunteer-based and most of its money went to the roof renovation. The Saskatchewan Winter Games is working with the club to find temporary solutions, but says money for a new permanent chalet depends on funding. Bunge has announced its merger with Viterra is now complete. The merger results in one of the largest agribusiness companies in the world. The $8.2 billion deal was finalized nearly 6 months after the federal government approved the merger, but the province's official opposition says the Saskatchewan government failed to stand up for agricultural producers.
I think there are a lot more questions to be asked about what, if anything, the province did to stand up for Saskatchewan producers who, again, are concerned about a lack of competition. They're concerned about reduced logistics and transportation, and they're concerned about losing farm revenues to the tune of nearly $1 billion a year.
Ottawa has required Viterra's head office to remain in Regina for at least 5 years and required Bunge to invest at least $520 million in Canada within the same time frame. The provincial government says it will monitor the deal to ensure the terms and conditions are followed. 2 new group homes are being built in Saskatoon for youth dealing with mental health and addictions challenges. EGADS, a nonprofit organization, is getting $1.5 million from all levels of government as well as private donors for the project. The 5-space group homes will be built to provide 24-hour care, cultural support, and a youth-centered recovery program. Youth themselves will be leading the charge on the initiative.
Build the houses, like we help the people, like everyone helps build the houses. We all vote on everything we want to do.
Kids and even adults need to have a say in their life. We can't just keep putting expectations and expectations and expectations on them. They need to be a part of their own journey.
And is already underway. The homes will be jointly funded by the province and the Saskatchewan Health Authority. Well, if you are hitting the road this summer, you might want to consider a stop at a national park. Entry into parks across Canada is free from now until September 2nd. That, of course, includes Saskatchewan's own Prince Albert National Park. Visitors will also receive a 25% discount on their camping fees through July and August. And there is more camping weather in store. Helena Mahalik has the details in her forecast after the break. An archaeological site near Prince Albert received a lot of attention last summer. It suggested Indigenous people lived in the region for much longer than previously thought. But as Liam O'Connor reports, those who are researching the site are now trying to protect it from illegal activity.
Last summer, archaeologists were excited to share their research and findings about this site, carbon dating it. It got national media coverage. But that media coverage came with unintended consequences, according to some experts.
Assawanomic Cree for an area to cross is the name of this archaeological site near Prince Albert. By carbon dating a piece of charcoal, archaeologists determined Indigenous settlements were likely on the site around 11,000 years ago. But after the media attention, local experts say unauthorized people are disturbing and contaminating the site in search of artifacts.
There's been potters or people actually digging into the site, unauthorized and completely, without any respect for what this site is in and of itself.
The site is rich in artifacts, including the stone tool found recently, but Rondeau says important information is lost if artifacts aren't being properly removed and studied. Artifacts also can't be sold, bought, or traded and require an archaeological permit prior to removal. Fines and jail time are possible for people who break those laws. Glenn Stewart works at the Assawanomic site. He and his students are properly trained to excavate artifacts. And while unfortunate, he says unauthorized pilfering comes with the territory in archaeology.
We want it to be known, and we want to be able to bring people out and show them in all this because it is such an important site. The downside of that, though, is as it becomes better known, there is always the risk that you might have more unscrupulous individuals going out and pot hunting.
Rondeau wants a stewardship initiative that would give Indigenous people a better ability to stop the contamination of the site, but he says conversations with the province to achieve that have been slow. A teacher from nearby Sturgeon Lake First Nation, whose school is helping with the project, says it's crucial to preserve the site's history.
There's a lot of storytelling that's going to be happening there. Those stories that our old people, that our elders share with us, it's important. It's a part of our identity.
Rondeau says they'll now have to spend money on cameras and security measures, but he hopes the site will be protected sooner rather than later. Liam O'Connor, CBC News, near Prince Albert.
And in a statement late Thursday, the province says it is involved in discussions about the area, and it'll continue to work with local First Nation and Métis communities to find ways to protect the site. Ottawa is moving quickly to select and fast-track key energy and infrastructure projects after Bill C-5 became law last week. Major Canadian projects have long stalled over slow permits and other roadblocks. David Thurton explains where things go from here.
Canada is ready to build big things, something some say it hasn't done for a while.
What we can see is that there's a number of failed projects around the country.
This former top public servant has seen firsthand how Canada has struggled to get things done. From oil and gas infrastructure to transmission lines connecting provinces to clean power. Sources tell CBC News cabinet ministers are meeting through the summer to implement Mark Carney's vision. Now that Bill C-5 has passed, he's able to build on a scale and pace not seen in decades, approving projects up front, fast-tracking environmental reviews.
The real work begins now.
Cabinet will soon come up with a list of energy and infrastructure projects deemed in the national interest. a list that can't come soon enough for some.
That guy needs to be walking around every day in his vest pocket with a list of the 20 projects, pulling it out and saying what's off the rails, what's on the rails.
Another priority, Indigenous consultation. Some have vocally opposed the pace Carney's moving.
Opening up and dialogue between government officials and First Nation governments need to happen. And it's a two-way street. Dialogue happens both ways, not one-way ramming something through.
This Inuit-owned corporation, though, backs Carney's plans in hopes of connecting Nunavut to the national grid and high-speed internet, a transmission project that's shovel-ready but lacking financing.
That is the one defining hurdle in the development of those major projects that are 100% Indigenous-led and owned, is the fact that access to capital is hard.
Expectations are high. Carney will get big things built while respecting Indigenous rights. On that front, Carney will host Indigenous leaders here in the nation's capital for summits in about 2 weeks. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
And weather specialist Helena Mahalik joins us now. Helena, I was rudely woken up by some thunder and lightning last night, and I know we're in for, or we're at least seeing another round of some storms once again.
Yes, Ethan, we've been seeing some very hot weather, and with that comes some severe storms. Let's take a look at what's going on right now in the province. If you're watching live Thursday evening at 6:20, there is a tornado warning in effect for the RM of Kelso, which includes Redverse. If you're in these areas, it's advised to take shelter immediately, preferably in a basement. Many of these storms and even tornadoes are prompted by some of the hot weather we've experienced in a heat wave. As you can see, places like Estevan reached 34 degrees, but with the humidex, many places were actually closer to 40 degrees, especially in southern Saskatchewan. So will this heat warning last? Well, the answer is no. Over Thursday night, a cold front is going to pass through the south, and by Friday, we're going to see temperatures back around seasonal, and we're going to see an end to the 30-degree weather and any heat warnings that are in effect. Into Saturday, we're going to continue to see seasonal or slightly just above seasonal conditions, but into Sunday, we're going to see some cooler weather with temperatures below seasonal, as many places are in for a little bit of rainfall. We know that some rain is needed, especially in northern Saskatchewan. As of Thursday evening, air quality warnings are in effect for areas around Buffalo Narrows, and special air quality statements are in effect for areas around La Ronge. Over the next coming days, it seems like areas around Buffalo Narrows will continue to see the worst of that smoke. And the north is going to get some rain, though. There are severe thunderstorm warnings in effect Thursday evening for the RM of Merrifield near Redverse in the east. That storm is moving east at 30 kilometers an hour. The main threats include wind gusts up to 90 kilometers an hour, hail the size of ping pongs, and periods of heavy rainfall. Into Friday, we're going to continue to see some rain for the north areas in the far north around Stony Rapids. And into Saturday, we're going to see that more for the southwestern part of the province, as well as areas in and around Regina. And into Sunday, we're going to see that more so, again, for areas closer to the north and just west of places like Saskatoon and Prince Albert. So despite a few days of rainfall for the far north, we're only seeing around 10 millimeters of rainfall for areas like Stony Rapids. But we do know that areas with that severe thunderstorms and pockets of heavy rainfall could make it possible, Ethan, for places to get a little bit more rainfall for that, hopefully providing some relief to the air quality situation.
Yeah, tornadoes, smoke, rain, heat, we're covering it all. Thank you, Helena.
Thanks, Ethan.
Well, no one likes to find hair in their food, but some orchards in Chile are using human hair as mulch to fight drought. Mats made out of hair help lock in moisture around the crops. The foundation that makes them says it cuts water evaporation by more than 70%. It's mostly collected from hair salons and taken to a facility where a machine is used to weave them into sheets. Hair also contains nutrients like nitrogen, calcium, and sulfur that go into the soil. Local farmers say the method has helped reduce irrigation and also boost crop yields. Stay with us. We have more news and a final look at the forecast after the break. Concerns around Dutch elm disease are increasing in Regina. The city has confirmed 7 cases this week alone, with a total of 17 so far this summer. It comes after the city saw its worst ever outbreak last year with 85 cases. City crews are now working to prevent the spread of the destructive fungus. The city's acting director of Parks and Open Space Services says he's keeping a close eye on the situation and he wants residents to do the same.
Beetles are naturally here, but it's the disease that they carry. You know, people may not know that they have a diseased tree in their yard. They cut it down, they store it for firewood, they burn it, but neighboring trees get infected because they're storing the firewood. So there's, you know, the drought, the trees are weak, and they're more susceptible for infection.
Morgan says people can prevent Dutch elm disease by reporting trees that show early symptoms and watering and fertilizing during drought conditions. And Helena, sounds like there may be some more rain after all for those trees.
Yes, Ethan, we're going to see an end to the heat. Some more rain is possible. Let's take a look at the forecast for the city of Regina. Throughout the next few days, we will be seeing that 30-degree weather end, and temperatures will just be slightly above seasonal. Into the weekend, Saturday is definitely your day to get outside and do some activities. We're not seeing any breeze at all and just a beautiful day, but Sunday we're seeing temperatures below seasonal and some rainfall. That'll take us until Tuesday, where we're seeing another heat wave possible with temperatures again exceeding 30 degrees. Into later on next work week, we will see some rainfall possible, but with that heat wave, we will see overnight lows closer to 20 degrees. Saskatoon will experience a sunny week and temperatures over the next few days actually even slightly below seasonal. Into next work week, we're seeing temperatures climbing back up by Wednesday, exceeding 30 degrees. Into the end of the work week, we're going to see some rainfall possible with some of that hot weather. And our overnight lows over the next few days will be a little bit around seasonal, but as we get into next work week, we're seeing them jumping up even closer, Ethan, to 20 degrees. So definitely some time to get out your sunscreen.
Yeah, and maybe a few days here where I can actually open the window at night to get some relief from that heat.
Yeah, maybe get your fan out too.
That as well. Okay, Helena, thank you.
Thanks, Ethan.
And that is it for us. For more news anytime, you can head to our website or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. And of course, you can also download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching.